What if you were just one decision away from buying your first apartment building? Maybe your second or third. What if you're just one decision away from financial freedom? Now, what I'm about to tell you is not a quick fix or get rich quick scheme. Okay, it's a mentorship program designed to guide you through your first apartment building deal and beyond to 1,000 units. Because get to work directly with one of our highly experienced mentors who have already replaced their income with apartments. They're going to walk you through the entire process from where you are right now to owning your first deal and becoming financial free. We call it a deal maker blueprint. Our average student actually gets their first deal done in under 6 months. The average deal size is $4 million. Now, the reason for this is because of our deal maker blueprint, because of the mentors that you're going to get to work with, and because of the network that you're going to be connected in. Now, this isn't for everybody, but if you really want to change your life and you're willing to do the necessary work, then we'd love to work with you. Just click the link below to see if mentoring is right for you. Ross, welcome to the show today.
Michael, I'm really excited to be here. It's been a long time.
It has been a time. We looked, it was episode 53 in April of 2017 you were on. And my goodness, what a lot of things have changed since then.
Yeah. Everything has changed since then. And even the rate of change has changed since then. So it's been quite a roller coaster ride. And I'm excited to share some of the lessons and tactics with people.
Well, you just sold Connected Investor and that must have been an exciting event.
Yeah, I used my real estate investing to fund a tech company. And then I built my tech company to several million users, to some really good recurring revenue. And I sold it to a Fortune 100 company, First American, stock symbol FAF, $8 billion company, came in and loved what we were doing. And they were the perfect person to buy us because everyone in the industry buys all their data from First American. Any of the streaming platforms, the estimate, they are the creator of data. They like, if data is oil, they're the ones who's like drilling and manufacturing it and selling it to all the other gas stations out there. If that analogy makes any sense. So yeah, they wanted to be able to be on the front end of the data, and they saw what we did and made me an offer I couldn't refuse.
Well, I'd like to dig around in that just a little bit, but why did you create Connected Investor? Because I know you were doing real estate investing and wholesaling back in the day, and most people are perfectly happy from that. And, maybe every once in a while to get into bigger stuff, you're like, oh, forget that. I'm just going to build some kind of tech company. What led to you creating the Connected Investor?
I was just trying to solve a problem that I had. I realized at a young age, the more people I was connected with in real estate, the more money I was able to make. I mean, literally right before this show, I'm doing like a massive landscape project out in I moved to Asheville, North Carolina. I bought a mountain, Michael. Like,
love it.
It's fun. Yeah. We can talk about that later perhaps. But one of the landscapers, they're like, who the heck is this guy? Right. Cause I'm always just kind of hanging out, spending all this money on rocks. And they kind of Googled me, figured things out. And this guy inherited a house and he's essentially passing me a deal right now. So now it's a deal in another city that I don't want to take down this deal, but because of my network and my connections and using the Connected Investors platform, I can easily sell that deal to a reputable real investor in a city that's 4 hours away from me. So anyway, it's the same thing. You need connections in real estate. And that's why I started Connected Investors.
Investor, I just remember, is more like a lending platform, but it was much more than that. Can you talk a little bit more about what problems that solved and kind of where it went from there?
Yeah. And, I'm not part of it anymore, but the company that bought me is investing so much money in it. So if you used it in the past, go back, check it out. Everything is getting better because they can just put the type of money into things that I couldn't spend $1 million for UI, right? But they can. Anyway, so Connected Investors started out as a social networking platform for real estate investors, essentially just a way to be able to search certain locations to find investors that did certain things, kind of like a big social networking buyers list, if that makes any sense. All the questions you ask people, hey, where do you buy? What are you interested in? What type of deals have you done? We kind of created a social platform around that. It wasn't so much of a forum, but there was kind of a feed in there. And then through that, Michael, because I had access to the network, I saw what everyone was talking about. And this was in a different cycle in the market when funding was really hard to obtain. So long story short, I became friends with the CEO of Lending Tree, through Connected Investors, as a matter of fact. And we were both training for an Ironman triathlon. And we were talking about how real estate investors got capital back in 2015. And he was like, that seems really inefficient. That's how it was for primary mortgages prior to LendingTree. So with his mentorship, I basically just recreated a LendingTree type platform for private and hard money lenders within the Connected Investors platform. So you can press a few buttons and be on the phone with a verified private or hard money lender, and they would compete for your business. So that solved a really big problem for a lot of real estate investors. And it still does today. It's through Connected Investors or privatelenders.com was that side. So first we wanted to figure out how to connect people. Then we brought kind of the money to the table. And then we bought all the data and started bringing the deals to the table. So we got really good at solving like one problem at a time. I feel like our disruption, we really disrupted lending. That's where we did a great job. And we made a lot of money as playing a middleman with that platform.
Now, First American, obviously, they bought your company because they have plans for it. They see a vision for it. What do they want to do with it, you think?
That is, I'm trying to think how much I can share with you on that. When you're looking for any data in real estate from an investment standpoint, no matter how you're searching for it, a First American asset will show up. They want to be on the front end of property acquisition. And I mean, they handle 1 out of every 3 real estate closings currently. So if you've ever bought a property, you probably worked with them, and they have so many great products. They just didn't have a way to explain what they did because they had so much. So they're using it kind of as an e-commerce, as a way to give access to data to people that's never been available before, and to stay in front of their customer.
You also said First American has a lot of data analysis, and this is really going to help that data. Like, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen, like in the market moving forward, just based on what you've seen in the data and that First American has access to now?
Yeah, well, I mean, First American has all of the real estate data. When I first sold to them, I got to kind of open up their toy chest of data and just see things I've never seen before. Access to data, like for instance, a lot of the people would use our platform to find motivated sellers. That was how we help people find deals. And as I was looking through their data, I realized that they had all the information on the previous sale, which real estate agent was used, the buyer agent, the seller agent. And I went to First American and said, can we include this with our data? Because if it's a vacant house and you see that Michael Blank Realty was the realtor that helped sell it 10 years ago, you can probably call them up and then they have a connection to the owner, right? So I helped connect all of these fun little dots that they had never done before. So what their exact plans are, I don't know. I know it has a lot to do with artificial intelligence. And I know it has a lot to do with streamlining the closing process. So that's about all I'm able to say. But there have been some really cool developments on the back end. You'll see things starting to unfold. And with me selling to Connected Investors, selling to First American, for the first time, there is an $8 billion company in our space, right? It's always just been real estate investors and entrepreneurs that had a quick little fix. It's never been Wall Street at that level. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they're able to do and how they're able to use their weight to just really dominate.
When you were getting into this, I'm sure you had a specific vision and intention for this company. And I think a lot of companies start that way, or they start down a certain path and then they pivot and morph into something completely different. Did you experience that with this company? And if so, what were some of the ways that you guys pivoted?
No, that's a great question. And there is nothing but pivoting in a company. And I feel like the way that business is done now is you build the audience first, and then you start to stack your products. I mean, just look at online influencers. They'll white label something and sell millions of dollars of it in a second. And that's kind of what we did. We've just built a really big network of real estate investors. And then we just started to dismantle and solve one problem at a time. right? We wanted to solve funding. We wanted to solve finding deals, because real estate investors have two questions. Where am I going to get the deal? Where am I going to get the money? They might say, where am I going to get the money? Where am I going to get the deal? Like whatever order it is, those were just the two problems that we tried to really focus on and just kind of keep gnawing at and being the best at. But yeah, I mean, once you have an audience, you can start to introduce new things. Now, it can be dangerous if you start to push too far away from your core offering, right? Because you want to go deeper with that audience. Going wider is okay, but it's a different skill set than going deeper. So we didn't want to be the jack of all trades. We wanted to be like the best at real estate investing, that trade. So we just one at a time. And I mean, it takes years to get something right. It's not like we put one on a few months later, another one. It was years and years, each of those blocks to build on.
Must have been cool and satisfying to not only scale the company to a high level, but then sell it to a Fortune 500 company. What are some some key lessons that you learned over the decade of running Connected Investor?
No, that's a great question. And whenever you're building a company, it's like building it to sell is important. You're either building it to sell or you're building it to step out of. You always should be trying to eliminate yourself over time, because no matter how much you love to do something, at some point you may not be able to do it, or you may just be sick and tired of it. So it was really nice because I almost sold to Lending Tree, as a matter of fact. And that was when my eyes opened up to, oh my gosh, I need to make sure I'm positioning my company to sell. So what I did to position a company to sell, the advice that I give my friends and colleagues is to start to build relationships with the companies that would potentially buy you, from board memberships to affiliate relationships. The idea, even just giving them equity in creative ways, phantom stock, is to make sure you stay on their radar, because selling a company has very little to do with you. It's always about the buyer and the timing. I would imagine First American was sitting around the table. They're saying, hey, we need to get into this space. Who do we know? And someone's like, I have a good relationship with Ross from Connected Investors. Call him, see if he wants to sell. That's probably what happened. I wasn't shopping my company around. So you want to make sure you're in front of those people however you can. Build your list of potential acquirers now, because when they want to buy, they're going to ask 5 people in the company. And then that's where they're going to start their diligence. That's what I found anyway.
Was your plan to sell like now, or was it accelerated because they called you? But what was your initial plan? Just to grow it some more and then sell it later, or remove yourself and replace yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to sell. I just wanted, because, Michael, I started Connected Investors in 2005 or 2006 is when I bought the domain name. I've been running it for a long time. And, to do anything at scale, you have to be obsessed. That's kind of the word. You have to wake up in the morning thinking about it, go to sleep thinking about it, you're daydreaming about it. It's your passion. That's what it takes to be number 1 or 2 or top 10, in your space. So I was, I was starting to get a little empty when it came to my passion for Connected Investors. I put so much into it for so long. So I really wanted to sell, and we got the call. And the timing was perfect. It was the top of the market. I also watched the market cycles too. And selling a company is kind of like playing poker. Every 5 years, someone will tap you on the shoulder asking if you want to cash in. And had I cashed in prior, I would have got like 1/15 of what I got, which is, significant. So
Ross, I went through something similar maybe to what you're going through now, or I had one business that chapter ended. And that happened to me in 2016, where I sold out, separated from my partners, everything was done. And I kind of went through a bit of I don't know, I would call it maybe an identity crisis myself when I was making that transition. And I'm curious, as you kind of had a bit of a lead up to this, because knew it was probably going to sell, but how did you start to think about what you were going to do next? And what does it feel like to be out of that chapter that you were a part of for so long and now it's over?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And, this is the same type of thing for athletes. I was on an athlete podcast, and athletes go through that same type of thing as well. And a few really good strategies. One of my mentors shared with me something he called the lifeboat strategy. It's when you use your big company to start a smaller company, right? To kind of get it up and running. And when you sell your big company, you have another boat to kind of step onto. That was my real estate investment and my lending company. So I didn't jump off the boat and have nothing to do. I had a big real estate portfolio and a little lending company as well. So there's the lifeboat strategy that was really important. And also, I got into real estate maybe for the same reason that you guys did, or a lot of your people that watch this podcast. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? Started out with Think and Grow Rich. That's where I got all my habits. And then I found Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then I just jumped into real estate. And he said something. He said, when you sell, just take a year off. Like, don't jump right back in. Let your mind spool down, take a few deep breaths. And that's really, really challenging for a lot of entrepreneurs, especially someone who's had a business since he was able to talk, which was me. So I did let the engines cool down a little bit, but then I just replaced what the dopamine, right? I replaced what the goal line was. For so long, I had these financial goals and about myself and my family. And I kind of moved that more into the nonprofit charity side. So I was able to kind of make that deal with myself because I didn't want to start another business. I don't want to die with any more money than I already have, but I still have a lot of influence. I have a lot of capital. I have a lot of passion. So I moved it into the nonprofit world, and we have started recently helping people. It's in the affordable housing space. The reward is it's 10x what it was in the for-profit side. And it's been a nice replacement. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I moved to nonprofit and I had a smaller business I was able to kind of step onto, but I have a lot of free time now, which I've never had before. It's driving my wife nuts. But other than that, getting a lot of time with my daughter and competing in a lot of different sports and stuff like that.
Yeah, what sports are you doing? Looks like you've got something punched in the face or something.
Oh yeah, man. I mountain bike a lot.
Nice.
So,
The extreme kind. The extreme kind.
Yeah. In Asheville, I mean, everything is downhill. It's fun. No, it's a good time. My background was BMX. So I used to be a BMX guy, and my goal always from day one was just to have enough money so I could ride my bike every day. Because there's no money in BMX, but
that's all.
That is really
I think it's
cool.
good to go through temporary state of confusion every once in a while, Ross. And I like the idea of not doing anything for a year, anything major. I also like your focus on the nonprofit stuff. So talk about just very briefly about affordable housing is always an issue. What are you doing there?
Yeah, well, Michael, like I mentioned before we jumped on, real estate is the number one way to become a millionaire in the United States. That's why we're all here. Real estate is also the number one way out of poverty in America. And the gap is getting pulled. If you didn't own real estate before the recent pop, you are so far behind, you don't even realize it. Not that you can't catch up, right? There's plenty of ways to find. The great thing about real estate is you can actually rewind the clock. You can buy properties at prices that they were. You can buy old interest rates. Like, there's things to do. That's another podcast. But people got so far pushed back, they don't even realize it. Then when interest rates went up, I mean, they're out of it. And it's really tough, because if you take two families, one family owns their home, one family doesn't own their home, the generational impact is like monumental. The person who owns their home can get an equity line, send their kid to college, can help them buy another house. Like, there's options. Then at the end of the day, a child inherits a paid off house and they have some financial security. So there's a lot of talks about affordable housing, but usually it's affordable rentals. And that's great, but it doesn't help people move forward generationally. So my whole influence is in real estate. It's in creative financing. It's in creating things that last for a long time. So with Saving Homes, what we do is we help save the homes of single parents that are losing their house to foreclosure. That's number one. We do this in a way that creates a flywheel effect, Michael. So essentially, Saving Homes pulls together money from donors. We help people save their house. And then in the future, when they sell or refinance that house, the money comes back to Saving Homes. There's no interest, there's no payments, but it creates a note that comes back to Saving Homes in the future when it sells, so we can save another home. So anything I do now, Michael, I want it to last for a very, very long time. I want it to keep going and going. So one donation through Saving Homes could help people for generations to come. That's the type of thing that got me excited. So we've started to implement this model, and we're saving our first house. And it's just so awesome to help people save their house. Now, a lot of people lose their house again. And a lot of people villainize these individuals as being, just not financially competent. But usually it's a medical issue. Most people don't have 3 months of savings. Most people don't even have $1,000 in the bank. So one unforeseen medical bill, it gets really tough. all the aids gone, and we focus on house with kids, because forget about the parents. It's about helping the kids stay in the house. If the parent does have to leave, we're going to make sure they don't get scammed by real estate investors. We know all the tricks. We're going to make sure that they can make as much money as possible and help them find a soft landing somewhere else, hopefully within their school district, so their child doesn't have to lose their best friend, get rid of their dog, and move into a neighborhood where they don't know anyone. I mean, that type of stuff is happening right now. So yeah, I'm using my influence to make a difference on that side of the world right now.
Yeah, I love it. You mentioned earlier that you were always numbers driven and revenue driven, and I think we're all the same way. That's how we measure our success. But how do you think your definition of success has changed or is changing?
When you're up to your ass in alligators, your first order of business is alligator control, right? When you're like financially struggling, or not struggling, but just trying to get 3 months ahead, 6 months ahead, 3 years ahead, it's so hard to look up and around. And that's kind of a blessing and a curse, right? Because there's a lot of bliss in ignorance. That's not a bad, ignorance is not necessarily bad, but my definition for success was always just driven by numbers and competing with other people in my industry. And the people that I was competing with in my head, right? They were the biggest assets I ever had in my life. Like the people that gave me the hardest time, my biggest competition is the reason I sold my company. Like all of these things come into play. So competition is really good. But now I'm kind of moving it from income to impact. And I'm not saying that I couldn't have done the same thing, in one time. And some people are lucky enough to find that. And we did impact people with connecting investors. We help people make money. It's just a different type of impact. Now I'm purely measuring, impact, the generational impact of things. With charities, you have to be able to show, the ripple effect of positivity for certain grants and stuff you can get like that. So just long-term impact outside of my own household is what I'm looking at. And I made a mistake probably of not focusing more on that earlier, but I spent the first 40 years of my life on me and my family. I'll spend the next 40 years helping everyone else. It's kind of my goal. The deal I made with myself.
Love it. From success to significance, which is awesome. So what do you think is next for you? I mean, again, you're taking a year off. How far are you into this break? Like at one point, do you feel pressure to kind of figure out what's next for Ross?
Yeah, I mean, 2024 is next. I got a nice long mountain bike trip to Peru with some buddies I'm taking. And then when I get back, it's sleeves are rolling up. Anything I'll always do will be in real estate one way or another. It's all wealth flows through real estate, whether you're a part of it or not. And that's just what I know. And I love the many different aspects of real estate. And I just try to inspire people. Like if you're watching this show and you don't own any real estate or you own a house, just make it a goal to buy at least one property every 2 years. That's what's going to take care of you. It doesn't have to be this crazy thing right now. Just even if it's a piece of land, just build that real estate portfolio little by little, chunk by chunk. And then at the end of the day, that's what's going to take care of you, probably more than anything else.
So Ross, how can people connect with you now and follow and see what's going on in your life?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I've done a complete social media fast.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
So what part of selling was I'm not allowed to sell real estate information anymore, but I am allowed to give it away. So I have like all my old, my books, my courses. My favorite thing is kind of like my transformation guide. It's just the habits. A lot of training in real estate is actually just like behavioral therapy. It's kind of crazy. Like real estate's not hard. It's just treating the behavioral problems you have to do new things you haven't done before. And that's what habits help. So anytime I do something new, I dive into the habits. So I decided to kind of put this in a PDF anyone can download. And if you just shoot me an email, you don't have to talk to me. You can if you want. I'll just send you all the stuff that I can't sell anymore. I can give it away. It's a few courses, a few books, and some PDFs. And it's ross@successcap.com.
As you better have a VA because your inbox is about to get lit up. Ross, it's been really great to reconnect with you, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm excited to have had this opportunity.